To Town Hall, concrete5, beginning of September. First day of school for most of us. It's very exciting. We've got a call center around the corner that way. I got my girls in. Andy's got toddler times online, so it's pretty fun. It's pretty
Yeah,
fun
it
for
is. I'm
everybody.
running away. I'm running away.
Well, we've lost Andy. Oh my gosh. Well, we're here. We're doing good. It's been an eventful summer. But we've reached some real milestones. It's very exciting. So let's see. First off, I need to tell you this is going to be an expedited town hall this week. We cannot jabber on for an hour through to scheduling excitement. This has to be 30 minutes or less. So if you have questions for us and you want answers, you should be putting them in now. Mike and gang will find them. You can put them in Slack. You can put them in the chat thing to the side. But start asking away because we'll try to make some time to address anything as quickly as we can. Next, just want to take a quick moment because I know we are Portland Labs and Portland's in the news quite a bit. I'll let you know it is not anarchy in Portland and nothing is burning down. It's all good. It's a little windy last night with the wildfires, but yeah, city is delightful, and the 2 square blocks where the protests happen. That's just part of Portland's culture. Don't sweat it. Let's see. Big news here is we have relaunched the Army MWR site. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here, Corbin. You see a ta-da? All right. Well, hopefully this is working. So armymwr.com plus 70 some garrisons. Whole new look and feel. I'm going to talk a little bit more how we build this stuff. But this has been, oh geez, 2-year project for research and redesign and migrating hundreds of thousands of records into this thing. So you guys have certainly heard me talk about the Army before, and it's been quite an adventure. It's fun working for these folks. They kind of are responsible for benefits if you're in the Army and resources. So it makes you feel like you're doing a good thing, and the good people trying to help folks who are serving. So proud to work with them and really proud of this website that we've relaunched. So armymwr.com, and then of course there are quite a few assorted Army MWR. Let's see if I can find a Army MWR. There we go. So every installation in the world gets their own kind of version of this. So here's Fort Bragg, and you can see similar idea, but they can go and do different things with the stripes on their homepage. So we'll talk a little bit more about that now, but huge project for us, launched successfully. Everyone's very happy. It's very, very stressful for everybody, and we'll kind of come up for air. And so that does mean we get the opportunity to pivot at least some of our time to rebuilding the marketplace and the community stuff that we've been talking about. So all sorts of planning documents and Confluence and comps that were made a year ago that Gary and I are now digging up, saying, okay, what are we really doing here? And couldn't be more excited to be focusing on that stuff. So that is good. All right, keep things moving here. We want to go directly into thanking people for everything that you do in the open source community. So here's our Karma Leaderboard. We give you points for doing stuff on concrete5.org. That's something that we're going to continue making work in the new concrete5.org. This last week, we gave away some add-ons to winners. And for helping people, Concrete Owl won a copy of the domain mapper. For promotion, Systematic won a copy of the domain mapper as well. Systematic, we've wrote some case studies with them, took their stuff, kind of flushed out some sections on what does it feel like to own and edit and use the Concrete5 site, and they've got some really good looking sites that we've talked about in this town hall. So hi Systematic, good work. And then Linuxoid has won a copy of Domain Mapper as well for doing work on the core. And you can see already new stuff coming in. September 8th, that's today. So interesting timing on that. Maybe someone should look at that. But yeah, cool. Thank you. It's nice to have all sorts of people contributing and doing stuff. And you can really see that on version 9. So assuming that Andy is still somewhat available.
I'm here. I'm here.
All right. Do you want to?
More or less.
I'm
hiding.
You want to go through?
Hiding. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Version 9 is in full swing. We are getting ever closer to having, so much of that just really, really dialed in. The level of polish on it is unlike any release we've done so far. Really, really pleased. Over the last month, we've gotten pull requests accepted into the core from Bitter Dev, Fabian Bitter, eSupport Inc., Hamed Daragi, Hishi, Corvin Santo, MS Sparza 5, M. Locati, Rude Wallraven, Rude Zuderlicht, and Zanweb. And the development effort is really, really strong. We're going to keep that pace up, and we're adding new, we're not just adding kind of a level of polish bootstrap for that kind of stuff, or these boards and containers features. We're really kind of looking at the kind of basically the full way that concrete5 is used, and so don't be surprised that you might see feature requests get in there that have been requested for years and just kind of simmering on the stove. And we've got a little bit of time and development effort, and we're making the most of it. So pretty pleased, definitely.
Nice. Special shout out to M. Lacani for translation site fixes and goofiness around there. Took us a little bit of time to securely share tables that he needed. And with our Army work, we're very conscious about that kind of thing now, which is great. But really appreciate him taking the lead on that. And a bunch of documentation stuff as well. C. McGill, Consul Merweb, Gordon C200, Hishi, Euro, Loosehead, and the Northman all have submitted some documentation or fixed a typo or done something on the doc site, which is kind of a wiki version of Concrete, and appreciate that too. So thank you, each and every one of you. Anybody who we didn't call out and still did stuff, we appreciate you too. Say it every time we do this, but it is really cool to be part of something that is bigger than just our little team here. A lot of pride in that. All right. How are we doing? Any technical challenges here? We all straight, Corvin?
We're all straight now. Yeah, I lost my internet there for a second, but thankfully, apparently this streaming software is robust to that, so we're doing good.
All right. Well, I heard everything, so that's great for me. All right. So I wanted to share my screen and talk a little bit about some new stuff in version 9 that we built very clearly for the Army, but it's going to be the kind of thing that everybody gets to enjoy in the big picture. So pretty sure you're not going to be able to hear this. Hopefully you can't just hear me talking, right, Corvin? It's not me over me, because that's too much.
Yep, that's all I hear.
Perfect. So wonder if I cannot hear me, because I am super annoying. Yeah, how do I turn this volume down?
You can mute the tab, can't you?
There we go.
Oh,
all right, so what we're looking at here is a series of what we're calling stripes. They are, in this case, very horizontal design elements, but they could be anything atomic. Here is kind of an image, a title, and a date. Above it, there's actually 2 pieces of information, so we can have kind of the knitting circle next to the indoor futsal league. They collapse all nicely. They're responsive. It's great. It's the way that a lot of modern websites look. Very different than the way the web looked, 15 years ago when we started, or almost 10 years ago when we first went open source. Everything was kind of like inverted L's and more like this, just kind of, almost like you were selling it by the inch, had to kind of use all the space available. Well, now things tend to flow down. Scrolling is cheap because everyone's on mobile and tablet devices. And so the question becomes, well, what are the tools to build a website that feels more like this? So what we have done is we've come up with this stripes idea, and you can build stripes in 2 different ways. So what we're looking at here is stripes in a board. And for those of you who have been around a very long time, you may remember a prototype called The Gathering. This has some of those loose ideas in there. But the problem that we were trying to solve is you want your home page and your category pages to look fresh. You want to be able to make content, kind of granular content. Here's the back to school bash. But when you post that article, like the natural workflow is, look, I want to post it. I want to pick a thumbnail or 2, get the information right, and then I want to be done. I don't want to then go and have to spend a bunch of time curating landing pages and pretending I was making a newspaper. I want the top of the newspaper thing just to kind of do itself, just to update on its own. Always have fresh content, and you occasionally be able to kind of curate things a bit, clean it up when it gets messy, but really be able to believe that it's going to keep itself fresh. So the metaphor we use for that is a bulletin board, much like a board at a coffee shop. You might have one that only the employees can kind of touch. Maybe it's behind the counter. You guys remember coffee shops? It's like you could go out and like do stuff. Uh, you might have one where it's pretty highly curated. This is official stuff. Please don't put anything on here. You might also have a bulletin board like right by the front door. It's community events, and it just gets covered in stuff. It's really up to the person running the board as to how you want that to behave. So let me hit pause on this guy. What we're doing here, this is a board block, this whole thing that contains multiple stripes. You pop it in edit mode, and you can see it's referencing which instance of this board block. That takes you into the dashboard and the stuff we're not going to show today because it's just a little overwhelming for this kind of demo. But what you can do is for any one of these stripes, you can, if you really like what it is, you can pin it right there so it always stays there. And if you don't, you can put something else there. So we just hit replace slot. And now we're searching through content that's on this site. In this case, it's events and happenings, which are just kind of blog posts. But you can pull this stuff in. This is just pulling attributes in against pages or data types. You pick a couple, and then it shows you, here's all the stripes I can build using those attributes, right? So I've looked at that data. I know there's a thumbnail, a date, and a title for each one of those. I've looked at my stripe templates, and here you go. It's if any of you remember kind of Print Shop Pro back in the 80s, it's kind of like, here's all the ways this could not look bad. Choose which one you like the best. There you go. Now that is going to be pinned in that slot. The board will automatically move other things around it. So it'll still try to bring in new content that is fresh above and below. But you can, if you say, look, that's important, I want that to stay there, don't replace this slot with other news, you can do that. So think big board, horizontal slots. You can pin a stripe, you can pick a stripe, or you can let the stripes automatically fill. And that is one of the ways that you can use these design elements in your websites. You can kind of set up category pages as well, miles above using the pageless block just to kind of list everything, right? And you just kind of, there's always this dichotomy with the page list, or what a designer gives you, and it feels like a newspaper, and some of them have wide posts and some of them have small posts. And then what you end up building, where it's like, I don't know, I guess I got to use a bunch of checkboxes to decide how it's going to look somewhere else. This is much more flexible. Now, what we're showing here is maybe you want to curate something that's less dynamic, right? Boards are cool, but it is also a little weird. What do you mean is it going to change out underneath me? I just want to use these stripes as bespoke design elements. I know what I want, which order I want them in. I want to put this on the page, much like a layout kind of would let you do, where you could chop the page into some sections and do some styling. Layouts have always been functional, but a little bit of a stretch, right? Like getting a layout to look the way a designer would want takes a lot of tinkering, and there's been some talks around, could that be better? Well, now you can see you can use containers. So right there from the add interface, in addition to stacks and clipboards and that kind of thing, now we have containers. And here you can see these are the basic stripe design elements. And I can drop one on a page, and boom, there is styling, right? So the backgrounds have fills. The columns have different breakpoints. This is going to have all the same responsive behavior that we saw on the board. And you can put whatever you want in there, right? So I can put blocks in there. I can actually put containers in other containers, but let's not think about that. This gives you the ability to kind of use these design elements in ways they weren't intended. There is a whole other thing I'm not going to show in this video called a summary block, where you can actually just pick a page and it'll build a stripe for you. You don't even have to mess around with these containers and kind of this layout driven tool. But there you go. So stripes being these atomic design elements, don't necessarily have to be horizontal. It's just, just divs. Boards being ways to automatically pull them in, be able to set up a bunch of slots, have some of those slots be dynamic, but also pin some of those to be, hey, this is a special and I want it to stay there. And then containers as a way to use that same look and feel, but as an element, almost as a block. It's basically a block. in the page. So still very early days, lots of fun and weird behavior out of this, as you would expect. But, we've got a very important client that is relying on it, and it's coming together very nicely with their real world content requirements. So that is one of the big things we've been working on for the last little bit. It's all in version 9, which we're eager to get out, but we're not going to release until we have the new marketplace set up. So pretty cool. That's what I wanted to show with that. So since we have about 15 minutes left, we've gone pretty fast here. I'm going to get out of that. And I think we're into the Q&A section of the town hall. If we're still here, I'm just talking to myself. Still there, Corbin?
I'm here. It looks good.
All right. Yay.
Yeah, I'm still here. Searching for the mute button. Yeah, we've got a few questions. Not too many though. So yeah, if folks are watching now, we've gone through a lot of stuff. Boards are, a ton of complexity and a ton of power. So if you guys have any questions about that stuff, that'd be good to ask about as well. First question from Katz. Katz was asking about browser compatibility. He says, in as many words, he's curious, are we still trying to generally support modern browsers? And in general, like what's our philosophy for browser support?
I know we're on the hook to actually have a real list, and browsers are such a different beast than they were when we used to kind of curate these lists. Their versions used to come out so much less frequently than they do now that it's a little daunting, honestly, to have a list of browsers that you say you support. But with that being said, I know that we want to add that to the website, specifically for version 9, because things like IE11 is a significant, do we support that? What version of Edge do we support, etc. So it's something we're actively thinking about.
Yeah, generally the most recent stable of your main, of your Coke, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper of browsers. So Edge, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, that's the stuff that we're generally looking at. Sometimes these days we actually get in trouble because new versions of browsers will break things, right? We had that issue with Chrome and something in jQuery, right? So it's almost backwards where it's like you have to be more worried about the new ones than the old ones. As Andy mentioned, some of our government clients get pretty old browsers, so it's reasonable to expect that we'll keep worrying about Edge and even IE11 to, does this kind of get around, Yeah, we'll try to, I think, write this philosophy up a little bit better in our docs, but I think what Andy's implying of it's going to be really hard to keep a table of this is the exact version of a browser that we expect you using to be accurate and meaningful, because I get a new version of Chrome often every week. Yeah.
Well, and if you look at the Can I Use website for certain, it's more like what types of, it's less about what browsers do we support and more like what features of the web are we actively using in our code base, because half the time it's not really about IE11, it's more about we're trying to use the Shadow DOM, and that's only in this. Well, that's a bad example because we're not. But it's more feature based than it is about browsers. Because Franz is right. The browsers, good luck trying to stay on Chrome version whatever. You just you roll with it as it updates for you.
Yep. So I don't know.
One thing,
a little evasive, but hopefully an answer.
One thing about that you guys didn't touch on, we use Babel.js to compile our core stuff. So things like, any of the I don't know if you're familiar with Bedrock, any of that stuff is going to be compiled with Babel. Any of the dashboard interactivity stuff that's not just inline in the page is also going to be compiled with Babel. So any of that stuff that's going through there should be compiled using the browser list. I think it's above 1.5%. Any browser that gets more than 1.5% of usage will have its patches applied to all of our built JavaScript and CSS. So that saved us from several issues, and we've also been able to extend that a little bit to get support for some other browsers that we've had trouble with. But in general, that's a pretty good list for at least what's being patched.
Cool. Second next question here, Andy. Are we expecting a 8.5.5 release soon?
Soon is such a fun word. We are going to do an 8.5.5 release at some point. There's no timetable for it, though.
Okay. Yeah, if there is a breaking issue, I'm not tracking on it.
I think that there might be some issues with like theme customization and stuff that I think are fixed. And then of course there are things that have been fixed in version 9 and in version 8.5.5. I know Corbin is busy looking at our our minor cross-site vulnerabilities list of things that people post on, most of which are just configuration issues, and he's been tightening that stuff up. So I expect once we do a pass on all that, he's submitting those not just to version 9, but also to the 8.5 branch. And I expect, once we get that dialed in, we can do another point release for 8.5.5. And then of course, as we go to version 9, it's not infrequent that we'll have to, that upgrades will require you to be on the latest 8.5 branch in order to be smooth. That hasn't been the case yet, but just we sometimes have to do a point release right before we do version 9. But since version 9 is pretty far out, that's not really a concern yet.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's the last one in the list. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
cool.
Well, there you go. Happy September, everybody. It's been an interesting summer, but excited for new challenges and a new season coming up, and it's all going to be good. So, yeah, that's what we know, and talk to you guys in a little bit less than a month. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, guys.